Drop the gun! Show me your hands!
Okay, so there were 11 mass shootings last week from August 7th through the 13th. And we're just going to go through all 11 of them. I'll read the news articles for a few of them, but for the most part, I'll just tell you what was happening at these events. So the first one started on August 7th in Bothell, Washington. And this one they're calling gang-related. This is the first one they've had this year in Bothell. And this is a city with a population of 47,000. And it's been dropping since 2020. It was going up, and as soon as 2020 hit, it started declining. This is otherwise a safe city, as much as I can tell. And this was a gang-related incident that led to 4 people being struck by gunfire. August 8th, there was not an event that was recorded. On the 9th, we go to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where 4 people were injured. And this is the third one that's happened in Pittsburgh this year. And so far, they haven't had a mass shooting that's had a person die. So that's actually a good thing. In this one, we got a bunch of victims. And our suspect, Dean Marbury, he's 43 years old, he was arrested in this. And I'm going to just read this article. On Friday morning, August 11th, Pittsburgh's Action News 4 obtained a criminal complaint for Dean Marbury, 43 of Pittsburgh. The complaint details Marbury allegedly got into a heated exchange with security guards at Jay's Lounge. According to police, a guard opened fire on Marbury, who then returned fire, and several patrons were caught in the crossfire. Marbury was among the people injured. As of early Friday morning, he had not yet been arraigned. It says previous story that investigators are gathering evidence shortly before 11 p.m., Jay's Lounge. Okay. So basically, this is kind of something that you see a lot with these mass shootings is you have 2 people that are shooting at each other, and they manage to hit everybody else except the person they're aiming at. And, people got caught in the middle, and that's how we ended up with 4 injuries. Luckily, no one died in this one, and luckily Pittsburgh is batting 1,000 on the no deaths in their mass shootings this year. But that's when 2 people are arguing. I mean, one was a security guard. When 2 people are arguing at a bar, you don't want to be in the middle of it if there's any chance either of them has a gun. Okay, now we're going to go to Crystal Lake, Illinois. This one was August 9th. This was the first one in Crystal Lake this year, and this was a domestic violence incident. And basically, this guy killed 3 members of his family and another female, and then killed himself. The victims were Chang Hee Song, a female that was 73 years old, Lauren Smith Song, she was 32, and Yuna Song, she was 44, and she was killed. And the shooter was Gene P. Song, and he was a male. So all the victims were females, and this male, who was 44, looks like he killed his wife, his daughter, no, probably not his daughter, his wife, and like some elderly woman, and someone that was younger than them. So domestic violence situations, these are common, and, they actually are, unfortunately, very common. All right, so we're going to go to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, August 11th. There was not a mass shooting on August 10th, so we're going straight to August 11th. And this is the third one this year for Pine Bluff. And 4 people were injured in this one, and it looks like 3 of them were teenagers, and 1 was a 77-year-old female. And we have a name of the suspect, Joseph Westmoreland. And our suspect is 20 years old, but the victims are 16, 18, 19, and 77. Pine Bluff police are investigating after 4 people were shot Friday night at a barber shop near West 16th and Cherry Street. According to investigators, 3 males aged 16, 18, and 19 were shot, along with a 77-year-old woman, around 6:49 p.m. Joseph Westmoreland was identified by the Pine Bluff detectives as a suspected shooter. Westmoreland turned himself in to police around 12:40 a.m. on Saturday. Witnesses told police that a 15-year-old left the barbershop to get a gun and returned during a dispute between teens outside. Soon after the teen and another male acquired a gun, shots were fired outside the parking lot at the intersection of 16th and Cherry. The 3 males who were shot outside are said to be in stable condition, and the 2 of them being taken by med flight to the hospital. The 77-year-old woman went into surgery and is also being listed as stable. So this is an example of kids that are too young, that don't know how to handle disputes. And the kid that started this whole thing, he was 15 years old, it sounds like. And him and 20-year-old Joseph Westmoreland, I think that dude was 20. Yeah, he was 20. And, you know, this is how they solve disputes these days, is they just, you know, shoot their way out of it. Okay, so we're going to go to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where we have 1 killed and looks like 6 injured, and this was August 11th as well. And this is the 4th one that they've had in Minneapolis so far this year. And this one was described as a house party with a punk rock show. And the house venue, they called this house a venue. It's the thumbnail, so you know what the house looks like. It looks like just a regular house. But they call this house a venue, and it's called Nudieland. Okay, and they were having some kind of punk rock show in the backyard, and someone walked into the alley and opened fire, and they think it was targeted because there were a lot of LGBTQ plus people there. So they're looking at this as like a hate crime mass shooting of sorts, I guess. But there were other people there too, so it could have been anything. All right, so now we're going to go on to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and this one is again on August 11th, and this was at the 8th and Diamond Playground, and we have, 3 people were killed in this one, 22-year-old male, a 24-year-old male, a 21-year-old male, all killed, and a 23-year-old male was injured. And this happened August 11th, and this was a 14th one for Philadelphia. And this one, I got the article I'm going to pull up. The 8th and Diamond Playground in Philadelphia is meant to be a fun and safe place for children, but it turned into a crime scene on Friday night. It was covered with crime tape and chalk circles surrounding bullet casings after 4 young men were shot while playing basketball just before 6 p.m. Since 2019, there have been over 300 shootings at or very close to Philadelphia parks and recreational facilities. This is unacceptable, said the vice president who represents recreation employees. Bestler and employees was working at the time of the shooting. Police commissioner said a 22-year-old man and a 24-year-old man were shot in the head and died at the scene. He said a 23-year-old man was shot in the stomach and a 22-year-old man shot in the head and leg. Both were rushed to the hospital. Kelly said at least 50 bullets and several guns were used in the shooting. There were at least 5 shooters, it says. So this is, what was the statistic? Over 300 shootings at or near Philadelphia parks since 2019. So in 4 or 5 years, 300 shootings at parks. And this is where they want your kids to play. So I would suggest keeping your kids out of Philadelphia parks. Don't let them go anywhere near them, because that's kind of a lot of shootings for one city in not that many years. All right, our next one is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and this one was on August 12th, and 4 people are injured, and this is the first one that Grand Rapids has had this year, and this was just a house party where an argument escalated. And this is so typical. And one of the most common, I used to joke in my videos in not a funny way, but like that arguments are the leading cause of murder in America. Because a majority of them are caused by simple arguments and people just don't know how to solve it. And these house parties, it's like you get one guy in there who just gets upset over something stupid and he ends up shooting up the place and you end up with a mass shooting. So let's go now to Memphis, Tennessee. This is also, this one moves to August 13th. And this is the 11th one for Memphis this year, and 8 people were injured. And this was a large crowd that was in downtown Memphis, and dozens of rounds were apparently fired, and they're referring to this as a block party. So basically another of the same, these large gatherings, whether they're at a house, whether they're in a backyard, whether they're in a parking lot, whether they're in downtown like this one. This is where this stuff happens, in these large gatherings when you got the wrong people there. All right, and then we go to Chicago, and it should come as no surprise that Chicago had 2 mass shootings on the same day, August 13th, and it was their 20th and 21st ones of the year. And the first one had 1 person was killed and 3 injured, and it was an argument that escalated to gunfire in Washington Park. Again, another argument, because this is how they solve their arguments. And the second one, 4 people were injured, nobody died, and it was a drive-by near the North Side neighborhood. And, you know, drive-bys are actually, I think they drive-bys are common ways that the mass shootings happen, but I think they talk these up, and I think they talk up the gang-related ones to a point that almost exceeds just how much all these other ones happen. Like if they tell you and you think that, oh, this is gang-related, or, oh, this was a drive-by, these don't happen here, you're totally missing the majority of them that are the simple arguments, that are the domestic violence ones, that are all the things that, you know, that we've talked about on this already, and more reasons that are just, you know, fights in bars. You know, in parking lots of bars at the end of the night, people, I mean, these things happen at all these types of places, and they're not gang-related, and they're not drive-bys, because when you hear drive-by, you kind of think gang-related anyway. But the ways that it happens that aren't drive-bys or gang-related are so much more than the ones that are gang-related or drive-bys. All right, and the last one we're going to look at today is Cincinnati, Ohio, again on August 13th. This is the 4th one that they've had in Cincy this year, and 4 people were injured in this one, and they were all 17 to 20 years old. And again, a block party, because this is the age group, and this is what they do. They go to these big parties. It was 4 blocks away from the University of Cincinnati, and they call it a large gathering. It's a block party, and again, this is the way these things are happening. This is where they happen at. And if you have a kid that's in that, you know, upper teens, early 20s age range, you really need to let them know that these large gatherings, they need to know who's going to be at them. Because if you go to these and the wrong people are there, your odds of being shot are very likely, because there are shootings at these things all the time. I mean, I'm talking about just the mass shootings. That means at least 4 people were injured. But there's triple shootings that happen in these all the time. And the amount of innocent people that had nothing to do with whatever the fight or whatever, anything that started the whole thing, the number of innocent people that are killed at these, if there was a statistic for it, I would guess far exceeds the people that were targeted, the innocent people. Because one guy might be trying to hit one other guy, and he just starts firing them off, and he's hitting everybody except that guy. Their aim is so bad that happens all the time. The person they're aiming at, they don't get hit, but everybody around them does. So if you have kids that age, you need to make sure that they're at least aware that this stuff happens, and make sure they know when they're going to a large gathering like that to be aware. And if they see a fight starting, or if they see things that just start to look like things are escalating, to just leave. So that's all I have for you today, but I'll be back next week with more mass shootings from next week. And if you like this kind of stuff, hit that like button and maybe leave a comment in the comments for the YouTube algorithm. And maybe consider subscribing if you want to see more of this on a weekly basis. Thanks for watching.